We'll never give up without a fight. Of course, Brian. I will do all that is necessary.
3, 2, 1, fight!
Yellow Ranger, power up!
Megazord, ready!
Cat stunners! That's how we do it, Cat Ranger style.
So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, we are here for Kent with Bent 72, Hovind alone, which was a fun thumbnail to make. You know, got Bent here instead of Marv, and you know, carefully cutting out Macaulay Culkin's face. Yeah.
But leave in the hands.
But leave in the hands, yeah, you gotta leave the hands. So, before we get started though, I do have a quick announcement, which is to say that some of you may remember the interview that I did with Cindy Lincoln. I say that you might remember it because it is currently my most viewed live stream on the channel history, so I figure you've probably seen it. Anyway, during that live stream, a lot of people were asking Cindy if she were going to start up some kind of legal fund so that she could do things like try to sue Kent Hovind to get her property back. And she said that she hadn't done so. Well, I am here to tell you that she has done so, and it is linked in the description. So if you would like to help Cindy Lincoln sue Kent Hovind, the guy on screen here that isn't Bent, and who, at least according to Cindy, allegedly violated her contract and has absconded with, I think somewhere around $30,000 or something. I don't actually remember the actual amount. You might have to rewatch the stream with Cindy. But yeah, so she is not expecting to recover all of it because she doesn't have receipts for all of it, but she does for some of it, and so she's expecting at least probably a few tens of thousands of dollars to be returned if she can win. Unfortunately, she hasn't been able to find a lawyer that's willing to take the case on for just a cut of winnings if they win. So she has basically only found lawyers who are willing to take the case if they get money up front. This is all according to her and what she told me on the phone. So yeah, if you are in fact interested in helping Cindy Lincoln out, there you go. Also, I believe, Bent, that you decided that we had a $1,200 fundraising goal for us for this live stream, which I don't think we're going to meet, oddly enough.
Yeah, indirectly, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's
Let's
our
get those donations in now,
our
folks.
super chat goal is $1,200. I have no idea what I would do for $1,200, but I would probably do something fun. Anyway, so we're here to talk about Kent Hovind. And also, Ben, I think I'm echoing a little bit through your mic. You might want to turn my volume down on your end a little bit. So, but yeah, we're here and we have a drinking game that we actually don't really encourage people to play because you need to drink responsibly. And if you want to opt out, that is great. And also, if you do play, you play at your own risk. Kent with Bent, the Dapper Dino channel, Bent Hovind, and all associated parties take no responsibility or liability for you playing along and causing damage to yourself, others, or property. So please drink responsibly. However, Bent is super loud. I'm going to turn Bent down, apparently, because it doesn't sound super loud to me, but apparently you are super loud.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, apparently I have leftist audio. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so we drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something so wrong we just kind of have to. We also drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something right that we're not just... It's on your Xbox audio or something? Oh. Aha. Yeah, it's on the wrong microphone.
Hey, how does this sound? Is it any better?
Oh.
Yep. It was on the wrong microphone.
But it sounds the same to me.
Yeah, that's because you're hearing from a different microphone than what OBS was hearing from.
Whoops.
Well, we may have fixed that. So, gosh darn it. I hate that OBS does this occasionally. It's just like...
I'm very loud and you're super quiet.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like everyone's hearing just me go... and all that, right?
Yeah, so sorry about that, everybody. Basically, sometimes OBS just decides... Or for some reason, my computer has decided every once in a while that it's just going to reset default device for microphone to my Oculus Rift.
Yeah,
and then OBS sometimes decides that rather than that it's going to reset to the default microphone, which if that's set to the Oculus Rift, might be the Oculus Rift. So I don't know why that happens occasionally, especially since I don't use the Oculus Rift all that often. I've used it once in the past, like, 3 months. Anyway, so yeah, we'll go back over the drinking rules. So, again, we don't take liability or responsibility. You have to drink responsibly. If you hurt yourself, others, or property as a result of following along with the drinking rules, that is on you. You need to take charge of your life. Anyway, we drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something so wrong that we just kind of have to. We drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something right without it just being a quotation from someone else. We take a drink whenever Mothra, Godzilla, or King Ghidorah show up, which, by the way, there's a few ways it can happen. Usually it's by a phone notification, which I'm not telling anyone except for Bent how to activate. But also, if you're a channel member, you do have access to the special channel emojis, and so a super chat of any amount that includes one of those emojis for Godzilla, Ghidorah, or Mothra will trigger a drink. Also, I'm making it permanent now. If you super chat some version of AIG or Dix, I'm going to take a drink for that. We started that with Matt with Maddie, because I was embroiled with numerous fraudulent copyright claims from AIG. I'm not currently they don't have any claims on my channel, but I just today uploaded a new video using AIG source material, and who knows?
Fair use.
Oh,
was it fair use?
It's absolutely fair use.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll add that one in. If you super chat anything that's along the lines of AIG is a dick, we'll take a drink. Or is a bunch of dicks. Variations, right? Apparently you can't actually type dick in super chats, so be creative there. We also take a drink. Oh! Speaking of Godzilla, take a drink for Godzilla. Okay, we also take a drink whenever Kent tells a joke that doesn't land. Whenever he goes Godwin's Law on us, because my goodness does he like to do that. We also occasionally, one of us will be able to predict what's happening. So if one of us makes a prediction and that prediction comes true, then yeah, we'll take a drink for that. And I think we've covered it. Did I forget any, Ben, that you know of?
I don't think so.
All right.
I'm reading my list. I think you said all of those.
Okay.
Shower thoughts. Did you say the shower thoughts one?
Oh, I don't think I did. So every once in a while, Kent will tell a story that we're pretty sure just didn't happen. Yeah. And it's like r/that really happened, or basically Kent Hovind just, you know, those, when you have those arguments with a hypothetical person in the shower, and you're like, oh yeah, man, I won that argument. But it was with yourself in the shower. Kent seems to think sometimes that those are real conversations. So we take a drink whenever that happens. Anyway, last we left this off, we were looking at Kent Hovind, who was saying that the ACLU had as its goal the promotion of communism. And then we had looked into it and found that rather than that, actually, after learning more about how communism was going in the Soviet Union, the founder of the ACLU denounced communism and initiated a purge of communists from the ranks of the ACLU. So, yeah, and that was decades before Kent said this. This was back in like the 80s that this happened, and Kent gave this, I believe, in the 2000s. So, the aughts, if you will.
2005? I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that, 2005, I think. Anyway, here we go.
He was upset because I was hitting a nerve with him.
This is the guy who was upset about Kent calling the ACLU communists.
By striking down the evidence for evolution. Some people, when you start...
Okay, hold on. So this guy got angry at you about him calling the ACLU... Got angry at him, sorry. About him calling the ACLU communists. And Kent thinks it's because he was destroying evolution? Why didn't he get angry at you about the evolution thing, then? Oh, and Caleb Scherstad for $5 says, AIG would like to know if you're interested in their record-setting collection of cod pieces. I'll take a drink for that. Oh, that's pretty good. And hey, you know what? I'm gonna open up a. Let's see how close we get to our $1,200.
The 12.
Yep. So here we go. We got -5, $1,195 left to go. Come on, guys. No, we won't. Anyway.
Striking at evolution, they will get so angry at you because they know, hey, without evolution, they can't justify their wicked lifestyle.
What?
That's the purpose.
Okay, watch me justify my wicked lifestyle without evolution. Christianity is true. Look at that. I've justified my wicked lifestyle. Because basically I'm not doing anything regularly that isn't already okay for Christians. Like it's pretty basic.
You know what else is basic? The way Kent's dressed here. No tie. What the heck, man?
Yeah,
most of us are actually here for the ties.
It's true.
Some of us are here for, discussing what Kent says.
Look, Kent Hovind Classic had some nice ties. I am not going to deny that. He had some ties that I quite like. So, but yeah, his current look of just the Hawaiian shirts is disappointing to me. And this is also a little disappointing because, I mean, he's got cool, like, space and dinosaur ties and whatnot. Wear them, man. All right, here we go.
I was at Berkeley, or one of the universities here. I've done so many debates. I debated professor number 99, 93 debates, but I've had several, 2 or 3 on 1. And it was, I don't know if it was Berkeley or University of North Florida. But
they are close to each other.
Are they?
I mean, in the solar system, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Well, in that case, does that mean... Oh, well, no, that's not a fact claim. That was you making a fact claim, not Kent.
I asked a student, afterwards, Q&A time, we were in the lobby speaking, and he was just still angry over the debate, He said, evolution's a fact.
This is correct.
He's a great big, huge football player kind of guy. I said, well, son, let me ask you a question. Suppose I'm right. Suppose creation's true. Would that affect your lifestyle any? He said, well, what do you mean?
All right. We're going to do this as a poll, right?
All right.
So first, I don't think this conversation happened. So I'm going to take a drink because this sounds like a conversation that didn't actually happen. So we'll do that. But here I have to type in a poll. If creation, we'll go with ism. We'll go with YEC specifically. YEC were true, would it affect your lifestyle? And so we're just, because like every time Kent asks a question, I like for it to be answered by the audience.
Yeah, by the 29 people watching.
Right. So guys, I'm posting a poll here in the chat. So if the question is, if YEC were true, young Earth creationism were true, would it affect your lifestyle? So the answers are yes, no, unsure. And I don't actually care what the answer is. I just think it would be interesting. And also, you do not have to specify in what ways. This is not me prying into your personal life. Here we go.
I said, well, suppose I'm right. I mean, if creation's true and the Bible's right, then God made the world and God makes the rules, and, you know, no lying, no cheating, no adultery, no fornication, you know. Would that affect your lifestyle any?
I feel like for most people, the only one of those that would really be affected is maybe the fornication one. Because
I don't think so, because I think there's plenty of YECs who fornicate
that's a
while
good point.
preaching in the church I grew up in that you shouldn't do that.
Well, there was also some adultery going on, if I remember your stories correctly.
Yeah, by a certain associate pastor
Womp womp.
who's, let's just say this, he did the wedding ceremony, but then later on, him and the wife, you know, they had to do their own relationship too. Like a good Christian hypocrite would, right?
Well, look, when he said that he married her, everyone thought that that meant he was performing the wedding ceremony for her and her husband, but that wasn't what was going on in his brain.
No. Really, because he was using that German guy. No, I'm thinking of that Office scene.
Yeah, that's the Office.
Yeah, that's the Office scene.
Here's some more, Kent.
He said, you're trying to embarrass me. I said, I don't even know anything about you.
I'm going to take a drink.
Sure you did, Kent.
Because here's the thing, Kent. By listing off a list of things that you think are bad, and then implying that he must be guilty of one or more of them, that is exactly what you're doing. And yes, we all know that you don't know anything about him.
There's a lot that Uncle Kent, no relation, doesn't know about.
Yeah. This is true.
Asking, would that affect your lifestyle? He said, well, yeah, it would change everything. I said, so have you accepted this evolution theory because you really have evidence, or because you like the freedom it gives you from rules?
But, okay, this is dumb, so I'm taking another drink. Evolution frees you from rules in the same way that, like, the germ theory of disease frees you from rules. So I could actually see some rules it might free you from. So, for instance, if you had a superstitious rule against, like, foul odors, like they did during the plague, which is why plague doctors wore those weird beaky masks, they put flowers in there, right? So that it smelled nice, because they thought that smelling bad things is what made you sick. So, yeah, I guess it would change my rules about how I avoid disease if the germ theory of disease is true. For instance, now, rather than sniffing flowers to avoid getting sick with deadly respiratory diseases, I do things like wash my hands with soap and water when possible, and when not, using hand sanitizer, and staying away from people who might be sick, which is basically everyone. And, you know, getting vaccines that are dependent on the germ theory of disease. So if evolution were true, it might change the rules I live by in the sense of, like, hey, maybe that affects how we prescribe, or should, drink for Mothra. How we should do things in regards to, like, say, prescribing antibiotics, or, you know, what we should expect to find in the fossil record. But it's not going to affect how I do things like, you know, my relationships, whether or not I lie or steal or cheat. Not going to affect any of those things, because those things come from other places than just my belief or lack thereof in evolution. They come from things like my moral philosophy, which, by the way, isn't in any way dependent on evolution.
What?
I know, right?
Crazy.
Got him right between the eyes.
Got him right between the eyes with an argument from consequence. So argument from consequence, for those of you who don't know, is basically saying, hey, if this is true, then it leads to bad consequences. Therefore, we should say it's false. So an example I like to go say is like, you shouldn't go to the doctor. Well, why not? Because you might be diagnosed with, like, a horrible cancer. It's like, yes, that might be the case. But not going won't change that. It just means you won't know.
It'll change the diagnosis, but
well, yeah, but
if
you
you've got the cancer, it'll keep growing and spreading, and
right.
Even worse.
Just because something has a bad consequence, like getting a cancer diagnosis, which no one wants, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Because ultimately, if things are true, you shouldn't just ignore that fact because you think it might have a bad consequence. And no, that's not a great analogy, but I like it drives home the absurdity and the fact that just because there might be a bad consequence doesn't make it a bad idea. Anyway.
They've accepted this theory because of the freedom it gives them. And when you start attacking evolution, just get ready to have people hate you. You won't believe. How many anti-Hovind websites now, Jonathan? Way over 1,000.
Hey, do we count as one of those?
I don't care.
I mean, there's
So I don't know, but
well, there's a URL for here, and we're definitely at. Look, not only is this an anti-Hovind stream in terms of like, we're trying to argue against Hovind. I, at the beginning of this, and tell people that they could go to a GoFundMe for suing Kent Hovind. So, you know.
Yeah.
They don't like me. I remember President, I think it was Reagan, called in his cabinet, his 12 cabinet members or 13, whatever he had back then. I don't know how many there are.
Fun fact: Reagan had an astrologer advising him.
what?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the guys was getting blasted. Every local newspaper, every national paper had this guy headlines, this guy's an idiot. Look at this decision he made, because he was making right decisions. And of course, the news media is going to hate you for that.
Right. They're going to hate everything you do if it's right for no reason. Got it.
I
What the heck was that?
I also just love the implication that Reagan
That was
did,
really stupid.
Reagan never did anything wrong, and I'm taking a drink for that. Yep. Reagan is just a
Reagan
paragon.
win like 49 of the 50 states? One of his times he was elected, something like that. Maybe both. I don't know.
Sure. I would
Imagine
have
a
to,
country that could agree politically on something.
Weird.
He had this cabinet meeting, and he flipped up all these newspaper articles. They're all mentioning this one guy. I forget who it was now. And said, look at this about this guy right here. Here's another article. Here's another newspaper article. He went through a whole bunch of them. He said, all of these papers and all of these articles and all these magazines are after this guy right here. He looked at the rest of the cabinet, and he said, now what's wrong with the rest of you? How come you're not stirring up trouble like this?
I don't know. No one laughed but him, so I'm drinking.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call that a joke that didn't land. It's just weird to me the like cult of Reagan, and I whatever. I don't want to get into it because I don't understand it. I've never understood it. So
How come you don't have an website against you? Look, if you throw a rock,
because like no one gives a crap about like the guy who heads up like the Department of Agriculture or something. Like just I don't know.
into a pack of dogs, guess which one yelps the loudest? The one that got hit. Okay? And you can tell the ones that are yelping the loudest.
I'm going to call that
you
another
hit a
joke that
nerve
didn't
there.
land.
So when I do the debates, I can tell which ones get, when they get upset. This is the one. We got him. Yep. It's your lifestyle, isn't it? You like the
I'm still
freedom
trying to figure out
freedom
what
from
he's...
God.
Okay.
Oh, it's still...
What he's talking about and how that relates, I don't know.
It all comes down to Kent Hovind thinks the only reason people believe in evolution basically is because they're horny. That's why on the Kent Hovind bingo card that like the science friends like me and Dr. Dan and Gutsa Gibbon and Jackson Wheat, when we watch Kent Hovind debates together, we bring up a Hovind debate bingo card, and one of them is you only believe in evolution because you're horny. Because it makes no sense, and it's an argument he brings up in almost every discussion.
And so when you start blasting the ACLU, you're going to get the same results, okay? But that is the purpose. Now, I would have to say, many lawyers involved in the ACLU, and there is a local chapter in Pensacola, okay?
Oh, no.
Many of them probably don't even know the history of their own organization, and they don't even know the hidden agenda or the not-so-hidden agenda of their organization. They think they're just defending...
Read the made-up agenda that Kent's making up
right
now.
Because we looked into the actual agenda of the ACLU last week. Or not last week, last time. It was a month ago.
I didn't look into the history of it.
Chesh did, though.
But...
Yeah.
Civil liberties. Well, if you're in it and you believe that, you have been duped, okay? Come on, you're a lawyer. Figure it out, okay? Think about it.
I'm not a lawyer,
Communist
actually.
Lawyers Union, what it is. Now, if a teacher gets up in front of their
he told a
class
joke,
and
too,
teaches
that
the
didn't
kids
land.
evolution, if they teach them, and millions do, if they say, kid, listen to me carefully, you started off like some kind of slime, and you slowly evolved to a human. Or quickly if you're from Harvard, okay? Any teacher that teaches
That was another
better
joke
stop
that
and
didn't
think
land.
for a minute. You need to understand, what you're teaching is destroying the faith of some kid.
Is it, though? Because I feel like we need a citation for that. Yeah. You can stop looking like a fish.
What? I am a fish.
Well, that's true. You are a fish in a technical
Thanks,
sense.
cladistics.
Right? All hail Neil Shubin. If you don't get that joke, it's because you haven't read Your Inner Fish by Neil Shubin, and you should. It's excellent. I don't have an affiliate link for it. I should get an affiliate link for that. As often as I shill that book, I should get an affiliate link on Amazon for that. Anyway.
You might have some kid in your class who believes the Bible, and you are destroying his faith.
No, Kent.
How?
You're destroying his faith because you're the one who's telling him that the Bible isn't compatible with science. That's you, Kent. The teacher isn't doing that. Also,
while claiming the Bible is scientifically accurate.
Hold on.
I don't
do we
know where that comes from.
Do we have Tentacruel on here? That looks like the Gen 1 Pokemon Tentacruel down in lower left. Also, what is it with like creationists and including in their weird cartoon versions of evolution things that are just not ancestral to human? Like it looks like there's a snail, a starfish, I think there's a clam.
It's ignorance. They have no idea.
A Pokemon, a deer.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They pretend that evolution is just anything can give birth to anything else. They have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a really pathetic straw man.
Also, I'm gonna end this poll, by the way. So let's see what the results are. But it's Tentacool. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna I can't post another poll apparently for a little while. Oh, now I can because it just finished that. So is that a Pokemon? And I'm not putting the accent over the E because I don't have that on my keyboard easily. So there you go. New poll. Is that a Pokemon? Now, if YEC were true, would it affect your lifestyle? No. 59%, unsure, 21%. Yes, only 18%. Actually, I'm a little surprised. I would have thought that yes would be a little bit higher.
I voted yes.
Okay.
And hashtag I voted, right?
Right.
But my understanding of the question is, if YEC were true, what I know about, like, what I've learned in the last 5-10 years or whatever, as I've left YEC, about the age of the universe and things like that, well, that would all have to be magically wrong somehow, which means literally I can't trust anything in science at that point.
Yeah, basically.
So of course, I don't know how exactly it would change my lifestyle, but I mean, completely abandoning all trust in science, which that would also baffle me because of how much progress we've made because of science. So yeah, I don't know what would happen.
Also, I want to say
if what you see were true, I'd probably just think that I'm in a simulated universe and there's no point in anything.
Well, also, thank you to everyone who is now giving me easily copy and pastable accents over vowels, but it's a little late. But I do appreciate it. And yes, I do know how to get them. I'm just not going to fiddle with it here while I'm live. I'm just going to use what's available with just keystrokes on my computer that don't involve, like, holding down, like, shift and control and typing in 4 numbers or something. Here we go.
And of course, the teachers might say, well, that's what I intend to do. Okay, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But you better read what Jesus had to say about you. Matthew 18:6. Whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Anybody that teaches that junk is in...
Sounds like Kent's in trouble without realizing it,
right?
Because he's dumb.
Yeah, he's definitely leading the little ones astray. And also, I thought there was a drink trigger, but now I can't think of what it would be. So anyway, we'll just keep going. But yeah, like, there's a big part of me that hopes that 1, Christianity is true, and 2, Kent actually has to give an account for all of this before he gets to his final destination in the afterlife, and that it negatively impacts that destination, shall we say. So, the Venerable Pete says the dude with the stick kind of looked like Tentacool too. He did have a sort of bulbous head, that's true. Nice.
Serious trouble when they stand before God. James 3 said, My brethren, be not many masters, meaning teachers, knowing we shall receive the greater condemnation. I take what
Wait, does that mean masters? Let's check. Let's look into this because Kent Hovind often gets the Bible
trouble
wrong.
when they stand before God. James 3 said,
I feel like Kent just said that he was going to receive greater condemnation.
So let's see,
And
James.
he might receive greater
3:1.
condemnation.
Maybe. All right. So NIV does use teachers, but we're gonna go look for.
Use the Greek.
I tend to like the Westcott Hort, and I don't actually have a good reason. It's just that that way it's consistent. If I just use the Westcott Westcourt. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Kent is right. So it does say didaskaloi, which means teachers.
Kent gets something right.
So hey, you know what? We'll take a drink for that because yeah, didaskaloi, teachers. Nominative plural. Anyway, I'm actually impressed.
Oh, I like Xenomorph's. I like Xenomorph's comment. If YC were true and the world looks like it does now, I'd have to conclude that Gallifrey is real and that Yahweh is a Time Lord.
That is nice.
That would be pretty cool.
Okay, I'm actually going to take a deeper drink because I took only a tiny sip for Kent being right, but Kent actually getting the actual meaning of the Bible as it actually reads in the original correct is surprising to me. So
fair, but I'm not double drinking for that.
Well, I'm just saying my original drink was like a tiny little sip.
Yeah, I know. I stand by my drink.
That's fair. Okay, here we go.
Brethren, be not many masters, meaning teachers, knowing we shall receive the greater condemnation. I take what I do very seriously because of that verse. I speak over 900 times a year now on creation.
Maybe Ken's a masochist. He just wants greater condemnation.
Maybe. I just feel like if that's the verse you're going to live by, you might want to start out by making sure that what you're saying is actually true, right? Goodness. See, it's things like this. It's the statements like this where I'm like, yeah, I really hope that Kent has to explain this to God at some point, because that would be amazing. I want to watch that exchange. So here we go.
See, today, 1, 2.
What does he
It's
count?
only my third time today.
What?
Okay. But I speak 900 times a year.
Oh,
I teach a lot of people, so I take it very serious. I'm going to be judged severely.
Ooh.
Because what I teach...
Turn to that. He got that right.
I mean, yeah, assuming there is a judgment, yeah, you're probably going to be judged pretty severely, Kent.
Well, even if there isn't,
we're judging him.
He's been judged by a lot of people on YouTube in the last couple of years.
And recently the court, who found him guilty of beating his wife, which, by the way, her fundraiser is in the description if you want to give to help her sue Kent Hovind for the return of some of the money that he took from her. Gary DeVere says, speak 900 times per year, about 2.5 times per day. Actually, I think that probably isn't that far-fetched, because my guess is that what he's doing is he's saying every session that he gives at some seminar, because he used to go to churches, right? And he'd give like 4 or 5 different seminar speeches in a day at a church. And I'm thinking that he's counting like, okay, we had a topic, then we, took a break for like, to go stretch our legs and get coffee, go to the bathroom, whatever. We came back, we did another like hour-long talk, then we broke for lunch, we came back, and like, I'm thinking he's counting every single one of those as a separate instance of him giving a talk.
I feel like he did just say that he's counting this current video he's making as one of them.
Right. He did say this is his third talk of this day.
Yeah.
And my guess is that it's not his final one either. So I actually do think that if you count it the way he's doing it, which I don't think it's completely crazy. It's not how I would probably count it, but I can see why you would count it that way. And so I would
think it's saying the same thing to a different audience would be a second talk. That's how I would count it.
Oh yeah, I think that too, but I think he's also saying giving a different talk or giving a talk on a different topic to the same audience in the same day is a separate talk. I think that's what he's also saying. So that actually might work.
Maybe.
Influences other people. I try very hard to be right. I study, I read, I mean, I
Yeah,
want to be
no.
right.
No, just taking a drink.
What does he think he means by the word study? Like, because like for what I would hold him to if he's claiming that he studies is reading peer-reviewed scientific papers. I would think that would be studying your field or whatever.
Mhm,
That's
yeah.
a professional, as someone who claims to be a doctor. I don't think he does that.
No, I don't think Kent Hovind
I think
has
he
ever.
reads 70-year-old magazine articles that someone sends to him. What do you think of this? And then he'll just eat it up or something like that. That's what I think he does. That's not studying.
So Angel Rivera, I think, came in a little late and says, "What's this thing about a Pokemon?" Which means we should probably end that poll. So basically, there was a chart that Kent Hovind had up, and one of the things on the chart looked like a tentacle. So I made that poll. And by the way, yes won with 72% of the vote. So apparently, Kent Hovind, as decided by the Dapper Dino audience, did in fact have a Pokemon in that chart. So we'll stop that poll because that's going to just be confusing to new people who are just coming in.
Not because I want to say I'm right, because I'm going to answer to God someday. You know, the Bible says, to whom much is given, much required. God gave us in America freedom.
Like
I mean,
he
you
was
could
just
have been-
really trying to remember how that rest of that went for a while.
I took it as him trying to get like his audience to say it back, and then they didn't.
His audience had nobody.
Yeah, they were like, "What? Huh?"
I don't
But
know
yeah,
if
it's
he's
to whom
talking
much is
anyone
given,
about
much
an
is
account.
required in return. Who's that Pokemon? It's Tentacool. Thank you, Cupdo 3. Yeah. Which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen it, I have a Leaving Young Earth Creationism with Cupdo 3. So check that out. He and I talked about his exit from Young Earth Creationism. I can talk. Don't worry. Here we go.
And in China, you know, or Soviet Union, or you could have been born in some country where it's, 90% Muslim and they enslave the Christians. They actually put chains on them and enslave them.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm taking a drink. Okay. So, there is not now, nor to my knowledge has there ever been, a Islamic regime in any part of the world in which Christians were simply enslaved as a group. Now, there are lots and lots of current and historical oppressions put on Christian groups, usually native Christian groups, by Muslim regimes, right? It's not been a fun time. However, simply rounding them up and enslaving them is in fact against basically every interpretation of Islamic law that's out there, for one big specific reason. They're a tax base. They have to pay additional taxes on top of what they normally owe to the Muslim state. So, yeah, there's actually rules in most versions of Islamic law against just randomly appropriating their property or enslaving them or killing them and things like that. Yeah, Christians are not en masse enslaved under Islam. It's just... Now, are there Christian slaves in Muslim countries? Right now, I don't know. There are definitely slaves in Muslim countries right now. Like, Qatar and the UAE have some pretty big human rights violations in that area, where they lure people from places like Bangladesh and India, confiscate their passports, and then basically don't pay them and continue to work them. Oh, drink for Mothra. So look, I'm not saying that there aren't some pretty serious problems in the Muslim world right now regarding slavery, and historically they were even worse. But it's just not true that Muslim countries just en masse enslave Christians. It's just wrong. Oh yeah, and the Vernal Beat says people love using that as a way of downplaying American slavery, which is just a too quote way, right? Yeah. Nothing that happens in another part of the world regarding slavery makes American slavery better or worse. They're just not the same thing. And so, yeah, someone else having slaves elsewhere doesn't excuse the American treatment of slaves. Nor does pointing out that somewhere else treated their slaves worse than was normal in the United States make slavery in the United States any better. That's not how this works. Anyway, here we go.
There's probably more slavery now than there was when, Columbus sailed across the ocean, or when America.
Like, I don't know how you would check that, and I'm trying to think if that's even reasonable. Because
I feel like I've heard similar things. There's just more people,
Yeah.
many more people.
That's one of the things, yes. There's just billions more people, right?
So, like, I feel like and I can't remember for sure if I heard that, but I feel like I've heard that before.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, like, I don't know how you would demonstrate that, but it doesn't strike me as something that is completely impossible to be true. Like, that's a potential possibility. Anyway, yeah. I just had to stop because I was like, I don't know how to assess that claim. And I still don't really, but it doesn't strike me as something that's just completely off the wall. And like you said, yeah, it's probably just because there's more people. I do think that a lower percentage of the population of Earth is enslaved than was the case, say, when Columbus sailed across the ocean. And of course, Columbus sailing across the ocean resulted in the enslavement of many people who probably wouldn't have been enslaved had he not done it. But then again, someone else would have done it, so it's really neither here nor there. Here we go.
Set the Negroes free. There's slavery, it's unbelievable slavery happening right now in Muslim countries.
That's true. I'll take a drink for that. That was true when he said it, and it's still true now. So I'll take a drink. Although there's also slavery going on in non-Muslim countries. Perhaps you've heard of human trafficking. That's a global phenomenon that happens in basically every country. And yeah,
I feel like there's some in every country.
Yeah. Of course, now YouTube's like, so, talking about trafficking, huh? Well, let's see about that monetization, huh? YouTube.
The Muslims have a slogan they use. They say, when you're in a country and if you're in the minority, just be nice, be sweet, be kind, and have lots of kids. We're going to take over this country by outpopulating the world.
That is not a Muslim slogan. For one thing, that's not a slogan. That's an action plan.
He's not done. The whole thing is the slogan, and he's not finished with it yet.
Goodness. Oh.
And they do. 8 or 9 kids per family.
Okay, here's the thing.
I feel like you could fact check that.
I'm going to take another drink. Okay. Birth rates do not correlate strongly to religion. In fact, if you look at, say, like sub-Saharan Africa, in areas where Christianity is the dominant religion, they tend to have just as many kids as similar areas where Islam is the dominant religion. Because the thing that most tightly predicts birth rate is how rich you are. Richer people have fewer kids. Now, for the first generation or so, after you get out of a situation where you're very, very poor, that first generation is usually not going to see that reflected in the birth rate. So what's actually happening is that in very, very poor countries that are primarily Muslim, the people there have a lot of kids. And then when those people immigrate to places like the United States or Canada or Australia or Great Britain, for the first generation, they also tend to have lots of kids. But if you look at like third or fourth generation Muslim immigrants to those places, they don't tend to have a lot of kids because they're rich and they're used to it. And by rich, I mean, according to global standards, we're like, hey, did you make more than like $10 today? Well, then congratulations, you're in like the top 50% of humans. So,
by the way, it took 5 seconds. Muslim women have an average of 2.9 children, significantly above the next highest group, Christians, 2.6. So it's 0.3. That's not an average of 8 or 9.
Nope. So let's take a drink
2.9
for that.
So that was... I'm going to just call it a straight-up lie.
Yeah, basically.
And maybe that could be a new category. Just kind of straight-up lies.
Gary DeVere says, my Muslim friends only have 2 kids each. Are they failing the plan? Yeah, basically.
Yeah, they need to get 0.9 more.
Well, let's just round it up to 1.
Or they could just be below average. That's okay.
No, they have to take over whatever country they're in demographically by having at least 3 kids.
At least 8 or 9. Right? On average.
Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. I love Kent's Islam conspiracy theories.
Their slogan is, if you're in the minority, you're a lamb. If you're in the majority, you're a lion.
Oh, that's the slogan. It took us a little while. Also, I'm just going to drink because first of all, Islam doesn't have a slogan, and if it did, it would be the Shahada. For those who might not know, the Shahada is a phrase in Arabic that means there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the prophet of Allah or the messenger of Allah. Rasul is a little tricky word to translate into English, whatever. And to become a Muslim, you have to state that, and this is the general interpretation most Muslims ask, right? To become a Muslim, you have to state that aloud in Arabic while believing it in front of a Muslim witness, and in, I believe, most versions of Islam, the witness needs to be an adult male Muslim. But I do think that varies. And also, I do think that if you stated it truthfully, but you just couldn't find a witness, that like seeking someone out to then hear it eventually they'd probably be like, yeah, it kind of counts. I don't actually know. I've never asked. I never cared. But yeah. Anyway, here we go.
And that's the way they do it. You can go to any country with a Muslim majority and watch what happens to freedoms of anybody else who's non-Muslim. So I'm not anti...
Okay, there is some truth to this. So I'm going to take a drink for that being kind of true, right?
I don't know. I feel like since Uncle Kent No Relation made this video, and now the amount of freedoms that I have had have also gone down. And I don't think I'm living in a predominantly Muslim country.
Well,
so
to be fair, he didn't say that your freedoms couldn't go down elsewhere.
I don't think they're related.
Well, I'll just say this. It's hard to find...
That's a fair point, but I don't think it's... I think people in power like to have more power.
That's true. However, I will say it is hard to find a Muslim majority country where there are not more restrictions on Christians and Jews than there are on Muslims. Or at the very least where they don't pay more taxes. So it's... yeah. That being said, I don't think it's necessarily like something that is like logically necessary of any majority Muslim country. So, yeah. And also it was less the case or like a few decades ago before the United States decided to start getting rid of all of the like pan-Arabist, like Arab nationalist type governments who tended to be much more secular. So for instance, Christianity and Islam and Judaism and other minority religions in Iraq were much more equal under Saddam Hussein. Now, to be fair, Saddam Hussein was an awful, awful person for whom nothing was great. However, since his ouster, things have gotten worse for Christians. So, and much worse for them than other groups. The amount of additional suck that has happened for Christians has been greater than the amount of additional suck that has happened for Muslims. So, yeah, to the point that actually now the Patriarch of Baghdad, who is actually like the head of an entire sect of Christianity, now lives in Chicago. Yeah, he's in exile. So, because, yeah, basically Saddam Hussein was not interested in religious strife, and so he tried to quash that as hard as possible. Not that that's an apologetic for him. He was a terrible, terrible person. I'm just saying that, yeah, the United States has made things worse in terms of religious tensions in the Middle East in the last few decades.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Hey there, look, you and I helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Muslim. I'm for truth and against error. Okay, we'll get into more on Muslims.
Oh, good.
Seminar part 7 in about 9 years at the rate we're going here. Okay.
You realize we're getting to that, right?
Same for us, guys.
Oh, my goodness.
In about 9 years at the rate we're going.
I'm going to have to, like, break up my Quran or something. Am I going to have to, like, try to read Arabic? I did get an A in Arabic.
I'm not going to do that.
2, 3, and 4. And I didn't take Arabic. Well, so technically I didn't do the work for Arabic 1. I did the work for Arabic 2, but it counted as Arabic 1, so I don't know. Anyway, I got all A's in Arabic.
Here's the story. In the 1950s, the average textbook in America had very little evolution. It just really wasn't talked about much. I remember going to school. I was born in 53, January 53, but I remember, evolution. What is that? Never heard of it.
I don't believe you, Ken. I'm taking a drink. That sounds like a straight up lie. Okay, here we go.
It's true. He
In
was born in
1950
January of 1953. I'll drink to that.
But I don't think that he'd never heard of evolution when he was a kid.
I know.
Okay.
I drink with you for that, but I also confirm his birthday.
John Rapp says
birth month and year.
John Rapp says that Kent has an order of magnitude more false facts than his Holy Bible. I mean, that doesn't sound far-fetched. Okay, and then Dr. Osiris is trying to make me read this tiny Arabic font on YouTube. Anala, is that a nun or a ta? Dude, I can't read this tiny little Arabic text. Yeah, I can't tell the difference between the next two letters after that ha in the third word. Sorry, man. The text display size of Arabic on the internet is ridiculously tiny, and my poor, pathetic eyes just cannot figure it out. So,
Bible.
yeah. Here we go.
I had friends. I had some friends who called it the Bible.
Bible.
That's how they phrased it. That's fine.
I used to think that the pronunciation Jesus was just like a parody, but then I encountered someone who unironically pronounced it that way, and I was just like, oh. All right, Carrie Bronson for $10 says, dropping in, donating, and leaving again, unfortunately. Have a good stream, friends. Well, thank you very much. And
Thanks for stopping by. You feel free to stay longer if you want, but that's your choice. You are welcome.
And so Carrie Bronson also brings us to, now we only need $1,185 to hit our fundraising goal. So we're a little behind pace, But
not if this turns into a 36 hours episode.
It's not gonna do that.
Yeah, that might not be true. It still might be behind pace.
The Venerable Beat says, remember people Ceratosaurus had bad eyesight? I don't actually think that was true. However, I will say I do think that the size of this text, like some of the things that I'm trying to determine are like sub-pixel size differences. Because for some reason the internet likes to just do tiny, tiny Arabic, and I really hate it.
And then the internet is like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Like, I've seen Arabic on Facebook, and I've zoomed into like 175% just to be able to actually read it.
Golly.
I don't know how people who use Arabic daily on the internet do it. Maybe they just always zoomed in. I don't know.
By the way, Educational Research Analysts, this is Mel Gabler's organization in Longview, Texas. Great organization if you want to study textbooks. Their website is text.
Oh, hold on. I just noticed that the last word in Dr. Osiris's was bil-Arabiya, which constrains the things that third word could be, because it's definitely a verb. I'm not something with Arabic. So it's bil-Arabiya, the bi bit there is like an instrumental, which is a fun thing because English doesn't do a good job with instrumentals, but Arabic does. Anyway.
Book reviews. Is it org or com, Jonathan? Do you remember? Textbookreviews.com?
.com.
Try both. Textbook reviews.
Guys, try
Mel
it.
Gabler died a few months ago at age, 86. His wife, Norma's still alive, and the organization's still doing great. But he started 40-some years ago, and his son brought home a textbook, and it had just a serious mistake in it. Like Abe Lincoln was George Washington's vice president, or something like that. He said, what? What?
But it wasn't that.
And he began reading the book and found all kinds of mistakes. And so he and his wife over the next, I don't know how long it took them to get full time, but they devoted their entire life to reviewing textbooks, finding mistakes. Unbelievable mistakes. One of them had the equator going through Florida. And I saw the picture of it. I said, what? Dumb stuff. Historical goofs that are just incredible. And they have a review of almost every textbook written in the last 40 years. They work on a donation basis. Send them $50 or $100 and say, hey, look, send me the review of this textbook, and they'll give it to you. They'll probably do it for free. They would do it for free, but send them something. The textbook reviews got started back 42 years ago, whatever, about the time evolution became a popular theory. because they found all kinds of mistakes. Not only did they find mistakes, they found just bold-faced lies that are being used to support the evolution theory. And they're still probably the organization that textbook publishers fear most. They are scared stiff of this Mel Gabler's organization, the educational research analysts. These are
No idea how much of this is true. I have no idea, and I don't care.
It sounds made up.
I mean, I've seen some pretty bad textbooks too, so I don't know. Can we vote to see who thinks this story is a lie? I guess.
I feel like I've implied what my answer to that, what that vote would be.
his numbers, okay? After reviewing thousands of textbooks, how many words are devoted to evolution in each textbook? In the 1950s, almost nothing, a couple thousand words. 1957, the Russians beat us in the space race by launching Sputnik. You guys probably old enough to remember
Other
that
things also happened that year that are also unrelated, but here's one of them.
Actually, I think this might actually be a connection because there was, after the launch of Sputnik, an increase in emphasis of science education in the United States in order to try to catch up with the Russians. So I actually do think that this part actually might be...
Rewind what I just said and reverse what I said to mean the opposite, and then fast forward back to this spot. I'll wait.
Okay.
All right, we're ready.
Americans panicked. The Russians are ahead in the space race. Wow, there's going to be nuclear war. The sky is falling. I mean, Life magazine ran articles, how you can survive fallout. In case
It's easy. Just use the VATS system. Target creatures' weak points using VATS. There you go. Also, be careful with your perks. Okay, here we go.
case of a nuclear war, how you can survive. They said the Soviets are ahead of us in science because they're teaching evolution.
Okay, I'm going to take a
Which
drink.
very
real
well
quick.
could have been a true statement.
Okay, but here's the thing. I'm going to take a drink and tell you why. The Soviet Union, as well as the Chinese Communist Party, actually both have a long history of rejecting evolution and having that result in actual famines. Right? So there's Trofim Lysenko was a Soviet biologist, and he decided that Darwinian evolution was just a reactionary scientific idea that was just put in place to help keep the proletariat down. And so he decided that he was going to go with, good communist biology. And in communist biology, there's no, this evolution through mutations, some of which are bad and everything. It's more Lamarckian, right? Traits that you can gain in life can be passed down. Another aspect of Lysenkoism was that plants had this class consciousness. So plants don't compete for resources. So you can plant 8 wheat seeds in the space of a square inch, and that's not going to be a problem. They're not going to compete with each other for water or fertilizer or sunlight or anything like that. So what you should do is you should just as densely as possible spread seed in your field, and then that way you can maximize the efficiency of your land use. Well, it turns out that yes, plants of the same species will compete with each other. They do, in fact, lack a class consciousness that would allow them to cooperate. And when you do this kind of thing, you starve 30 million people. Yeah, rejecting evolution, if you judge historical events in terms of body count, the communists rejecting evolution was worse than the Holocaust. Almost 3 times as bad. So, yeah.
What does evolution have to do with putting up a satellite?
I mean, nothing directly, but the thing is that there's this overall sense that at the time U.S. science education was flagging, and that included biology, because it was the case that actual modern ideas of biology were being undertaught in American schools.
What does evolution have to do with any scientific advancement?
I mean, it has to do with things like a lot of the predictions we made about fossils. We've used it to do things like make predictions about how to make effective vaccines, which I know Kent's
I don't know,
anti-vax.
a bunch of medicine.
Yeah, a whole bunch of medicine. We can just say some of the most effective medicines of the past century or so probably wouldn't have worked without at least a rudimentary understanding of evolution.
I would have trouble thinking of a medication that hasn't been developed through evolution in some way or another.
Yep.
I could be wrong, but it would be hard for me to think that through. You know, they used to get their the insulin from pig pancreas, but now they can basically just like genetically alter E. coli and grow insulin in vats, and then diabetics get their insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Great, that's awesome. Thanks, evolution. Thank you for letting scientists change E. coli into medicine.
Which is pretty cool.
Or medicine producers through genetic manipulation. So
I've
that
asked
people like my mother get medication that they need to
Yeah,
live.
that'd be nice. Yeah, that is a nice thing.
Yeah. That's a scientific advancement, I would say, that's related to evolution.
Actually, we're coming up on a break, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer a question from Guptu3, and then we're going to go on a quick intermission, and I'm going to refresh my drink, maybe do some biology myself, and then we'll be back. So Guptu asks about wouldn't the age of the universe have an impact on astronomy? So it would have an impact on astronomy, but it wouldn't necessarily have an impact on just getting to orbit, because really all you need to get to orbit is Newton, and Newton doesn't depend on the age of the universe or the Earth or anything like that, right? As long as the Earth has the mass that it has and it is the size that it is, and it has the atmosphere that it does, then basically rocket equations and whatnot are going to get you into orbit the same way. So there you go. Oh, and Forrest Revelo makes a really good point when they say that germ theory of disease and evolution go hand in hand as far as advancements go. Yeah, that's true. The connections between the germ theory of disease and the theory of evolution have been revolutionary for medicine, and far more people would die at far younger ages, far more frequently, had we not made those connections. So here we go. We are going to go on an intermission, and we will see you guys on the other side of it as you watch a Klingon clock that is too slow because I don't know. I think I set the frame rate wrong on the animation. Sorry about that. Well, the citation needed animation played for a little bit there. Sorry about that, but hey, we're back. Oh wait, are we back though, or do we need a citation for that? Yeah, okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so, let's just keep going. Although, I will say one thing. I had the thought while we were on break that Kent Hovind has promised in seminar like 7 or something, and I think we're on 4 right now. Yeah, 4. To talk more about Islam, and Kent Hovind is a fan of Jack Chick, who made Chick Tracts. And the Chick Tract about Islam makes the claim that Islam was created by the Catholic Church as like a weird conspiracy. So I am hoping, and also not hoping at the same time, for different reasons, that Kent Hovind goes full on the Pope created Islam. Because my goodness, would that be awesome. And also horrifying. All at the same time. Here we go.
People all over. Can you name one scientific advancement we have because of this evolution theory? Just name one.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, we already did.
I did before the break.
Many
The
vaccines,
insulin.
yeah.
I said the one I did was
Yeah, I mean, so
Never had anybody name one.
I don't think you ever asked. So I'm going to call this a story that didn't happen and drink for it.
They say, well, modern medicine would fall apart without evolution. Oh, that's a bunch of baloney.
No, it's really not.
It's a bunch of baloney. Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take a drink for how dumb that is and how many people would die if Kent Hovind were in charge. Look, it's like, it reminds me of, so we did Jackson with Jackson, I think last week. And Charles Jackson, Bad Jackson, Dr. Jackson, basically said, you know, because evolution is wrong, we should just do broad spectrum antibiotics for every bacterial infection. And I'm just like,
What is this, an episode of House?
Please do not put Charles Jackson in charge of anyone's treatment for anything. Because for reasons we went over on that stream, no, broad spectrum antibiotics should not be just the default treatment for all bacterial infections. Like, holy crap, is that bad for so many reasons? Look, don't go to creationists for medical advice. That's just my advice.
I would recommend going to, how do you pronounce it? It's like
medical
Dorkers or something? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
hey,
is
Science
them
Side
for
Up is
medical
here.
advice.
Which, by the way, if you like Science Side Up, which why wouldn't you? First, and if you don't know who that is, go subscribe to her channel. But also, that's the Maddie from Matt with Maddie, which is coming not next week, but hopefully the week after, assuming everything works out.
Doctor on the planet that cares
go
about
sub.
evolution while he's operating on somebody. Quite the opposite. I mean, when he cuts them open, he expects to know generally where the appendix is. You know, it's pretty much the same on everybody, right?
Yeah, okay, but Ken, the same thing is like, okay, when your average crane operator is, you know, moving very heavy objects on a construction site, are they actively thinking about all of Newton's laws and doing the calculus in their head at that time? No. Does that mean that Newton's laws aren't important to crane operation and design? Also no. Does that mean that if you have a wildly inaccurate idea of physics, you might screw up a crane at some point as a result? Yeah, still maybe. It's the same thing with a doctor, right? Medicine overall it's importantly based on evolution in many ways. The fact that a doctor currently performing a surgery right now on an individual human doesn't have to think about it at that time doesn't change that fact. That's just how the world works. You don't have to think about everything related to what you're doing to do it right now. But in the long run, in the big picture, it's important that the people in charge of all these things actually have an accurate scientific picture of what's going on. I'm going to take a drink for how ridiculous that all was, and the fact that I even had to explain it.
Okay. Wow, his appendix is up by his left ear. What happened here? He must be evolving. No, it's always going to be halfway
was a
from
joke
the
that
ilium
didn't
to the
land.
belly button. You're right in that neighborhood somewhere, okay? It's always going to be there. So they said, you can survive fallout. And people built bomb shelters. There were articles in magazines, how to build a bomb shelter. I remember distinctly as about a 10-year-old kid, my dad sitting down with the whole family discussing the possibility of nuclear war.
Okay.
1963. 62, 63 in there. He said, kids, there's a possibility, you know, we're going to have nuclear war. The Soviets are so far ahead of us in science. and we may have to build a bomb shelter. And my dad was quite the builder, always building stuff. We built several houses as a family.
I'm going to point out that the Soviets were ahead of the United States in space technology, but they were also still having trouble with ongoing famines. So, you know, you win some, you lose some.
The kids and I, and dad and the kids together. And
Then what happened?
we had serious plans to build a bomb shelter in East Peoria, Illinois. And probably several hundred people in our city did. And they stocked it with fresh water supplies and fresh food and, you know, batteries and flashlights. I mean, they had a whole list in the paper. Don't forget to bring this and this and this.
Yeah, Forrest Revelo points out, what the heck does a bomb shelter have to do with evolution? Look, man, if I knew, I would tell you.
I'm waiting for it never happened, therefore evolution is false. That's what I'm waiting for.
That's your prediction.
We'll see.
I think
I don't know if I'll call it a prediction, but yeah, let's call it a prediction. I get them all wrong anyway, except for I think the one.
I think this whole thing, this whole excursion into like bomb shelters, is all just building up to the reason evolution is more heavily taught in schools now than it was in the 50s is because the United States decided to step up science education to stay at least on par, if not ahead of the Russians. I think that's the whole reason he's doing this. Which means there's no reason for him to be going into this kind of detail, but I do think that's what's happening.
I just want to hear the whole story about then what happened and then what happened. I
Okay.
want to tell the rest of the story of his interactions with his father forever.
Okay, well, let's hear what happens.
He won't, but that's what I want.
And, you know, it was incredible. It was scary because people were scared. Oh, wow, the Soviets are ahead in science.
By the way, we do have a few people in chat saying that this conversation may not have happened between he and his dad. I actually don't think it's very far-fetched. It was a present fear at the time. And, I mean, I can see a father pulling his kids into like the living room or something to have a chat about that possibility. Do I know it happened? No, because Kent lies all the time. But I don't think it's so unlikely that I'm willing to say that it absolutely didn't.
I wouldn't
And
be
the
surprised
excuse was,
if Kent
they're ahead
occasionally would turn around and touch the glass.
because they teach
I wouldn't
evolution.
put it past him.
In 1959, it was the 100-year anniversary of Darwin's book being published. Now, I have said in my previous seminars, and I found out it's wrong, okay, so I'm going to correct it here right now. They did not publish a 1950...
Wait, hold on.
What happened?
Kent is admitting to a mistake? Okay, let's I'm going to rewind a
First
bit.
time for everything.
Okay, let's listen again.
It was the 100-year anniversary. It was scary because people were scared. Oh, wow, the Soviets are ahead in science. And the excuse was they're ahead because they teach evolution. In 1959, it was the 100-year anniversary of Darwin's book being published. Now, I have said in my previous seminars, and I found out it's wrong, okay, so I'm going to correct it here right now. They did not publish a 1959 anniversary edition that we can find. If you can find one, let me know. But I have said in the 100-year anniversary edition of Darwin's book, you know, Arthur Keith said blah, blah, blah. That is not correct. It's true Arthur Keith said that, but it's not true he said it there, okay? Apparently nobody's been able to find a 100-year anniversary edition of Darwin's book.
I'm kind of amazed. This is one of the only times I've ever heard Kent admit to a mistake openly and then say that he's going to fix it. And I don't know if he has, because I haven't really like been paying that much attention to see if he still says 100-year anniversary edition. But like, I mean, you know what? Props, Kent. You've managed to correct something about yourself in your entire worthless existence.
You've admitted you were wrong on one thing. You can do it for others.
Yeah,
It is
450
okay
million
to do
more
so.
things to go.
But it was the 100th anniversary of Darwin's book. But there wasn't an
Just
edition
imagine a
published as far as
world
anybody.
where Kent Hovind admits he's wrong.
I mean, apparently we're in that world.
Yeah, but like about, you know,
All the things he's
most
wrong
of
about.
it. The important stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine if somehow he might earn some respect. Yeah, I don't want to say that after recent poor incidents
Look,
with
I'd be-
him and physical violence.
if Kent weren't a convicted spouse abuser,
Yeah.
then yeah, maybe that would give him a little bit of respect. But once you're a convicted spouse abuser, like, most of my respect is pretty much gone. And it's down to the point where I'm like, I mean, no, people shouldn't actively, like, attack Kent physically, but,
It might be
like...
too little too late for him at this
Yeah.
point, even
Yeah.
if he...
Okay, well,
came
numerous
clean
people in
and
chat are saying that that's worth a drink, so okay, I'll drink to it. You guys have peer pressured me into it.
I took a couple sips for it.
That Kent correcting himself is worth a drink. That's fair.
Fine.
Even Kent took a drink for it.
But in 1959, President Eisenhower asked Congress for $1 billion for the Department
You're not going to give us the quotation, Kent? Okay.
of Health, Education, and Welfare, New American Education Fund, for the promotion and publication of the new science of evolution. $10.5 million was given to the National Science Foundation for the new 9-part theme curriculum teaching evolution.
Okay.
The NSF provided the Biological Sciences Curriculum Study, BSCS. And it was full of BS, I can assure you. I have one of the books in our library.
That's a joke that didn't land.
If you want to come and look in the science books in there, in the early 60s. And by the way, the BSCS, I don't know if they're still publishing this year, but for years they published textbooks on evolution, on biology, that were consistently the most packed with evolution. No other books that I have in my library have more evolution than the BSCS series. Okay? Biological Sciences Curriculum Study.
Don't really care about what books you have in your library, but
right.
Thanks.
It's a weird point to make, but okay.
Used the money to provide textbooks to public schools. They called it the Cold War Reconstruction of American Science Education. If you want to get more on this topic of what happened in the 1959, 60, 61, 62 era, you can call Bob Fry, FrySci at AOL.com. Bob.
So that the blurry letters.
You had to pay, so you know to pay attention to the thing that's illegible. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm not going to say that you should call this number. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say that you shouldn't. But if you do, what you should do is tell me what happens when you do.
Fry lives in Minnesota, near Minneapolis. He's a good friend of mine. And he speaks on creation, and his field of expertise, like I speak on dinosaurs and creation, he just focuses in on education and is really, really knowledgeable on the subject. So tell Bob I said hi. But
I feel like getting an endorsement from Kent Hovind is basically the same as being denounced by the rest of the world. Not actually fair, but that's just how it seems.
FrySci at AOL.com. You can get a hold of Mr. Fry and say, because he's one sent me this information in this book right here.
T.A. Bryan, what's up with that accent is that is Kent's attempt to make a Minnesota accent. He does it occasionally, actually more often than you would think. And it basically just comes across as like the Swedish chef. So.
Well, there's plenty of other people who speak on this topic, but what happened? They began really pushing evolution into the schools with this new grant money. And just about the whole U.S. curriculum was rewritten in the early 60s. By 1963, there were 33,000 words about evolution in the average textbook.
Great. We've established the history of evolution being taught.
To be
part
fair,
of it's the problem?
Well, yeah, because he thinks it's false. And I'm going to go ahead and say that, well, I don't know about these particular numbers that he's using. I'm not going to try and check them. The broad story is, as far as I know, reasonable. That, yes, around this time, significantly more emphasis was placed on the theory of evolution. And it was, to some degree at least, triggered by concern that the Soviet Union was getting ahead of the United States in science. So, take a drink. And also, Brian Stevens apparently called that number. Well, first, shame on you, Brian Stevens. How could you? I recommended that you not.
Yeah, and I recommend that you don't call the number that's on this slide.
Okay, so Brian Stevens says, it's apparently, when you call that number, it says, "Hello, and thank you for calling. To help us better service your needs, please listen to the options. If you want to save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance, press 1. Which is, that's great. I know I mock shame Brian Stevens, but actually that's amazing, so thank you. That's awesome.
Evolution became the state religion.
Oh my god, I'm going to take a drink.
There's a thing about premises and conclusion, and like the logic has to flow, and I can't get into it, but Ken skipped a couple of really big steps in his argument there.
The biggest of which is establishing whether or not evolution counts as a religion, because every time he's tried, he's failed utterly. Evolution is not a religion. It is
At least he didn't try this time.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to hear that again.
And because it's not a religion, it can't be a state religion, right? It's sort of like saying that, like, I don't know, like a Ford F-150 is the state bird. It can't be.
Why not just say astronomy is the state religion?
Yeah, sure, go for it. I mean, maybe atomic theory is the state religion. Maybe it's the germ theory of disease. Maybe it's universal gravitation. Who knows?
He might have something to say about the germ theory of disease being the current state religion.
That's true. Kent Hovind
But
is
he's
an
also,
anti-vaxxer.
like I said before, he's also kind of dumb.
And dishonest on top of it. He's both.
Maybe he's very smart and he knows everything he says is a lie.
Kristen Mills says take a drink every time Kent calls something a religion that isn't.
That would
That's
destroy
rough.
the game. None of us would get. I don't even have alcohol in my drinks, and I wouldn't get through it. Like, it happens so much.
All right, here we go.
Now, it dropped off after that, not because there was less evolution, but because there was less textbook.
What?
The kids were being dumbed down for whatever reason. Part of
Oh, okay, I get it.
All right.
He's saying that the number of words declined, but the proportion didn't, and the number of words declined because the textbooks got smaller. Okay.
Brian Stevens, thank you.
Yes, so Brian Stevens says phone number 2, rung 6 times, no answer, and then generic phone message of hello, please leave a message after the tone in automated voice.
No, I'm not surprised that 16 years after Kent gave this talk that this phone number might not be,
Oh,
the
I'm
same
not.
or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. I just think it's fun to know what those numbers do.
the plan toward a new world order, I'm sure.
By the way, there's like 20
sure
people
can.
in the audience who haven't hit like. Hit like, guys. It really helps.
Maybe they all hit dislike and I can't count. Neither are.
That they might.
But so the percentage of evolution in the textbook remained consistently high since 63.
Maybe that's what he should have graphed, but what do I know?
In 1963, Madeleine Murray O'Hair pushed real hard to get prayer taken out of our schools, and she got it.
No. Okay, I'm going to take a drink.
I remember praying in school, although I did go to a private school, so
Right.
that counts.
Madeleine Murray O'Hair pushed hard to get official school-sponsored prayer out of schools. Here's a fun fact. You're allowed to pray in schools, in public schools in the United States. You're just not allowed to be school faculty and lead an official school prayer. That's it. If you're a student and you want to pray on your own, or even if you want to gather like-minded consenting students to pray together, that's okay as long as you're not disrupting school activities. If you're a school official, you can pray on your own.
I didn't always go to a private school. I went to a public school until 5th grade, and I do remember, like in 3rd and 4th grade, being allowed to pray. It was never against the rules. There was even a National Day of Prayer thing where, like, some of the students went by the flag and prayed that morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the teachers was there too, right? But it was not like the teacher leading it or anything. You were just allowed to go if you wanted.
Yeah.
That was a public school in a city you may have heard of, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So, and I knew as a kid, even though most of my schooling was at a private school, I knew that you're legally allowed to pray in schools.
Yeah, it's actually illegal to prevent kids from praying if they're not being disruptive.
We thought it was a good thing as Christians, right? We get to have our freedom of religion. We can't disrupt the classroom, but
which is
pray we can.
Entirely reasonable. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
This was an amazing story. You ought to read this story by her son, William Murray, who wrote the illegitimate son, William Murray.
Oh, it's important to point out that he's illegitimate. I'm just going to take a drink for basically shaming this guy for something he had nothing to do with, which is the circumstances of his birth.
Some people would say that Jesus himself was born of a woman who wasn't married at the time.
That's true.
Just saying.
Evangelist, travels around, preaches. He wrote a book called My Life Without God.
Okay.
You should read his life story
He
What-
smiles like that after he says the title. Like,
It's creepy and weird.
It's like a sinister smile.
I know.
My level of good.
It's bizarre.
Like growing up as the son of
Should have done a
Madeline Muriel
screenshot
Hale.
of that and put
Okay.
that on the thumbnail as the I can't remember, Marv or Harry, whichever one's the bald.
But then I would have had to pre-watch it, and there's no way I'm going to watch this
There's
twice.
no way that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And he now is as an evangelist. Of course, his mom died a couple years ago, but she drove her nuts. You know, that her
Oh, there was a joke that didn't land because only Kent laughed.
son became an evangelist. What happened was he was going to school in Baltimore, Maryland. In 9th grade, the mother had wanted to go be a Soviet citizen. She hated America. She was a communist. She was an atheist, and they just weren't friendly to atheists over here, so she's going to go to the Soviet Union.
I mean, I will say the Soviet Union was more friendly to atheists than it was to anyone who was religious. So there's a kernel of truth there. Although I have no idea if Madeline Murray O'Hare was a communist and wanted to live in the Soviet Union or not. I don't care. It's not important to me.
So she applied for Soviet citizenship. She actually moved, her and the 2 illegitimate kids she had.
Just taking another drink for, again, shaming these kids for being quote-unquote illegitimate. Look, here's the thing, right? As a general rule, saying that someone was born wrong in some moral way, really bad call. Bad move. Just don't do it.
It's really frowned upon.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you think extramarital sex is bad and you shouldn't do it, I still don't think it's a good idea to go around harping on the quote-unquote legitimacy of kids. You know what makes kids legitimate? They're human kids. That's all it takes. Even if you accept the strictest rules about premarital sex, the idea that your parents did something bad doesn't mean that you're bad for being the result of that. And I'm really tired of Kent doing it. And I've had enough alcohol that's actually starting to make me angry. So I'm going to keep hitting play, and hopefully he doesn't keep doing it, because I might lose it.
To France, waiting for, can I come into Russia? I want to be a Russian. I want to be a Soviet. They wrote her back and said, we have reviewed your history of your jobs, and you've had quite a few jobs, most of which you have been fired from or have, got mad at the boss and quit. You don't have a good work record, and you don't understand. Soviet Union, you don't work over here, you don't eat. So we don't think you would fit in here, and no, your Soviet citizenship is denied.
I have no idea to what degree that might be true, but I'll be honest, it doesn't sound true.
What is that look on his face?
Oh,
Now I understand why people are afraid of clowns. I finally get it. Because they make that face, and it's creepy.
This is Kent basically trying to tell you what a piece of crap Madeline Murray O'Hare is with this story, and he's smiling because he thinks that if Madeline Murray O'Hare comes across as a piece of crap, that makes him look better for opposing her. Yeah. And the Venerable Beat says, I'm illegitimate and don't know who my father is. I mean, look, it can be rough not knowing who your father is, but like I said, that doesn't reflect on you at all. Brilliant says Kent doesn't even acknowledge his his legitimate child. That's true.
That's true.
Kent Andrew Hovind, sometimes called Kent Jr., is the son that Kent likes to ignore. And by ignore, I don't mean he just doesn't talk about him. I mean that according to Cindy on a phone call we had, when Kent Andrew visited Dinosaur Adventureland, as far as I know, the only of his children to visit the current iteration, Kent Hovind ignored him to the point that he left the compound, I'll call it, in tears because his father wouldn't bother to even spend time with him after he went to the trouble of visiting him. So, yeah. When Kent actually manages to fix himself as a father, then I still won't take seriously his talk about legitimacy and illegitimacy of children, but at least he won't look like such a scumbag when he does it. He'll still look like a scumbag, just a smaller one, right? a smaller bag filled with less scum. But he'll still be an ugly bag of mostly water.
That's true.
As are we all.
Bag.
Giant
Of
ugly
mostly
bag.
water,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. That's a Star Trek reference for all you non-nerds.
Madeline Murray
Guys
O'Hare.
are so nerdy
She
by
came
not
back
being
to
nerds.
Baltimore, and she's all upset, you know. She's mad,
think
mad
we're
at the
still in
world,
nerd
mad at
culture,
she's spent her whole life
Yeah, we're in nerd culture.
mad at everybody. And her son is in 9th grade now at this high school in Baltimore.
Okay.
She was late bringing him to class, and she walked in the school, you know, a few minutes late to bring her son to class one day, and she heard them saying the Pledge of Allegiance over the PA system.
No, the Pledge of Allegiance isn't a prayer. It was an actual school-led prayer that she heard. I'm taking a drink for getting this so completely wrong. There are still many public schools that do require the Pledge of Allegiance, or at least for people to stand for it, even if they don't have to recite it, and it's still said over the PA system. Now, okay, maybe he's going to get to the under God part, but guess what? Public schools, at least when I was going to them, still use the under God thing, and this was after this part, or this story about Madeline Murray O'Hare.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, you know, one nation under God. And she said, do they say that every day here?
Oh yeah, I was right. He did go to the under God part, which again isn't out of schools. And the Venerable Bead says, Dapper is drunk. Yeah, of course I am, man. We're an hour and a half into Kent with Bent, and I've been drinking whiskey.
We have, what, 8 or 9 drinking rules now?
Right? Neferetti says, to be honest, this is even worse than a story about Eric, in my opinion. Yeah. Look, Cindy, if you're watching, this is for you. Kent Hovind is a piece of shit. I almost never swear. And I stand by it. So, that was for you, Sydney, because I know you like hearing me say it, even though I so rarely do. She actually told me that once. She's like, I like hearing you say that. I was like, well, I'm glad you do. So,
Yeah.
all right. Which, by the way, since it's been a while, Cindy Lincoln is hoping to be able to sue Kent Hovind. She is asking for money for that. There is a GoFundMe listed in the description. If you want to help Cindy Lincoln sue Kent Hovind, that is the way to do it. She is hoping to recover money or the monetary value of various property and money that she gave to Dinosaur Adventureland, according to her, on condition that it be a loan and that it be returned eventually. She doesn't expect to get back everything that she's claiming was taken, because she knows she doesn't have receipts for all of it. But she is pretty confident that if she can actually get a lawyer paid for to file the suit and represent her, that she can get at least some of it back. And of course, Cindy Lincoln is Kent Hovind's ex, who he has been convicted of abusing. Now, to be fair, the conviction is on appeal, but until it's overturned, Kent Hovind is a convicted spouse abuser. So, here we go. Or I guess technically he's a convicted domestic abuser, since they weren't legally married, but I don't really care about that distinction. Which also raises questions about his whole legitimacy thing. Because Kent has had a series of not legally married to women that he's been calling his wife, and presumably sleeping with, although I'm not going to go ask about that.
He said, oh, yes, Mom, wait till you see what's coming next.
Oh,
And
now
after the
we're going to
pledge,
get
guess
to
what?
the
They had prayer over the PA system in the school.
Okay.
And she hit the ceiling, all 300 pounds of her. She was so angry.
And now he's just shaming her for being fat, which I don't know if she was. She didn't look all that fat in the picture. I'm just going to take a drink for Kent just basically using ad hom after ad hom of this woman, because apparently the worse of a human being she is, the better it makes Kent look, or the worse it makes her actions
The
look.
way
I
a
don't
good,
even know.
loving Christian would do it, too.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing says loving your enemies as you're supposed to, according to Jesus, like trying to paint them in as bad a light as possible. And now I can't even say simple sentences. Let's keep going.
While lying at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
That picture of her was not a picture of a 300-pound person.
Mm-mm.
Unless he's talking about someone else, and I missed that.
I mean, look, the picture came up while he was talking about Madeline Murray O'Hare, and the signage made me think it was her. I don't know what she looks like personally, so yeah.
went in and screamed and yelled at the principal, "I don't want my son to pray in school. He's an atheist."
I'm going to point out that even under that situation, her son didn't have to pray. There just was an official prayer. Now, I'm actually against official prayers in public schools, but their existence is not therefore an obligation for people who don't want to pray to pray. It is an obligation for there to be a prayer that they have to hear. Which, again, I'm against it, but it's a significantly smaller problem than being actually forced to pray yourself personally.
Well, so the school said, "Well, ma'am, he's welcome to go out in the hallway. Nobody's required to pray here. It's fine. He can go out in the hallway." And so she sued the school for allowing prayer. And she lost. The court threw it out, said, "This is stupid." She appealed it, went to the appellate level. She lost again. She went to the state Supreme Court. She lost again. She went to the federal appellate court, I believe was the sequence. She lost again. She went to the Supreme Court and won.
Okay, one, I'm going to take a drink for that being basically right. But here's the other thing. He paints this as if losing at all these lower courts is some kind of like, oh no, that means that her case had no merit. Okay. As a rule of thumb, if a case gets to the Supreme Court, that means that the person taking it there, appealing it to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, is able to appeal it there because the case was decided against them at all lower courts. Because it's the highest court. Cases don't start at the Supreme Court. They start at lower courts, and when they don't go the way that you want, you keep appealing them, and if the higher court thinks you have merit, they'll hear the case, and if they decide against you, you can appeal it again to yet another higher court. That's just how courts work. Kent Hovind is smugly saying, hey, this woman got something to the Supreme Court the exact same way everyone else did.
Mhm.
Oh, and apparently that's a bad thing. I don't understand the logic here. Of course there's no logic here. It's
Right.
It's supremely stupid. I'm taking a drink because, like, ha ha ha, Madeleine Murray O'Hara got to the Supreme Court. What an idiot. That's apparently the argument that we're at here.
We'll see.
And prayer was taken out of our schools because of that lady's efforts right there. Now, there's a guy that lives in...
No, it wasn't. I'm taking a drink for that too.
I prayed in schools. When was this? Because I went to school in the 80s and 90s. So I'm so old.
Let's find out. Madeleine Murray... it's apostrophe. Don't forget the apostrophe. O'Hare. By the way, I'm seeing more pictures of her, and the idea that that woman was 300 pounds is extremely unlikely. She must have had extremely dense bones to be 300 pounds if that's what she looked like. Court
Maybe
cases.
they were adamantium.
Let's see. So she challenged this in the 60s. So this was given this talk was given in the 2000s, and you were in school in what, like the 80s and 90s?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and you were allowed to pray?
Yes.
Okay. So
in public and private schools.
Okay. So school or prayer wasn't taken out of the school. Good to know.
Nope.
Mobile, Alabama, that works at a church over there. It's a friend of mine. He's been over here many times at Dinosaur Adventureland. He worked for Madeleine Murray O'Hare in Texas at her atheist organization.
She did actually seem to have some kind of atheist organization. It's just the way he said it was funny to me. G417 says, Kent Hovind's previous wives should come forward and add their cases to the Cindy Lincoln lawsuit. So there's a few things to say about that. One is, it's not easy to just jump into a lawsuit as like co-defendants unless the same actions by like, now this isn't legal advice, I'm not a lawyer, I might be getting this wrong, and as has been pointed out, there's been some whiskey. So take everything I'm about to say as a grain of salt. But like, unless the actions were like connected in the same basic action that, caused damages to both defendants, it's not always a great idea to just be like co-defendants. Another thing is, not all of his other wives would have a similar claim. For instance, Joe Hovind, his first wife, probably wouldn't have a great claim that he stole money from her. Yeah. Now, I will say this. Mary Toko, who is Kent's second wife, I believe. She was the one before Cindy. She actually did appear in court as a witness for the prosecution, so on Cindy's behalf. And while I have some pretty serious problems with Mary Toko, especially regarding her stance on vaccines and medicine in general, I will say it was a stand-up move for her to do so. And so at least one of the other exes is in fact on record in court basically talking about how terrible Kent Hovind is. Because she was basically a character witness saying like, yeah, the idea that Kent Hovind would body slam Cindy Lincoln is not at all out of character. Because he's an abusive person. So there is some cooperation between at least Mary Toko and Cindy Lincoln in terms of legal cases against Kent Hovind. I'm slurring. I've poured too stiff a drink, everybody. That's what I'm going with.
As a lawn keeper. And he carved her a special walking stick because she had back trouble and she had heart trouble, mostly head trouble, a lot of it.
Oh, that was a joke, and it didn't land, and I'm taking a drink. Head trouble.
But he carved her a walking stick so she could walk around with his cane.
Okay.
She never knew it. But he had made the top where it would unscrew, and inside he hollowed it out, and it was a miniature version of the Bible inside there. She walked around with this cane with a miniature version of the Bible in her hand for years. Never knew it.
Okay, first, I don't think that happened. I'm going to take a drink for it not happening. Because here's the thing, man. The Bible is a pretty big thing, and to shrink it down so that you could hide it in a cane, you would have to have some pretty expensive printing equipment. And I don't think that this guy spent the kind of money it would take to basically get like a 3-inch tall version of the Bible made that's actually like has the Bible in it.
Yeah.
If he had like a little pretend book with a cross on it, okay, but I don't count that as a miniature version of the Bible. It has to actually have the text of the Bible to be a version of the Bible. And here's the other thing. If the story were true, so what?
I know, right?
An atheist walked around with a Bible unbeknownst to her.
There's a reason my visible reaction when he finished the story didn't really change from when he was telling it, because I have no idea where he's going with it, and it seems like he already went there with it based on how he's laughing about it for no reason now.
Yeah, the whole thing is...
That would be a good troll, though, I guess. But what is that?
Goop23 says, I thought he just meant a sculpture of the Bible. If he had said like a miniature representation of the Bible, I might agree. And maybe that's what actually did happen. I don't know. But like, it's just such a weird...
That'll show her.
Yeah.
Even though she'll never know about it. Like, I don't...
Like, do you think like it secretly caused her pain or secretly brought her closer to God? Like, I just don't get it. It's like the people, and I've heard this, who claim that like the crossbar looking thing on the Burj Khalifa in Dubai is secretly a Christian cross. But shh, don't tell Muslims, they don't need to know. And it's just like, okay, even if it were, so what? It's just a stupid thing.
Gonna guard over them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Here's the thing about symbols. To be effective, they have to actually be noticed by people, right? Now, I think that symbols have...
That's where you and Kent might disagree.
Well, here's the other thing. The other option is that this Bible, whatever it was basically a magical spell that this person was hoping to cast on Madeline Murray O'Hare. But last I checked, Christians weren't supposed to try and cast spells.
Yeah, plus, I don't think it's supposed to work that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Brian Stevens says, Dapper Dinosaur, how could you be so foolish? If an atheist directly touches the Bible, they burst into flames. You know, I've seen a lot of atheists touch Bibles, and that didn't seem to happen. Maybe they were secret Christians. Just like Tim O'Neill, who, by the way, go check out my interview with Tim O'Neill. It's really good. Tim O'Neill frequently gets accused of being a secret Christian because he points out that, hey, a bunch of atheists get history wrong. Maybe they should stop doing that. And everyone's like, oh, you're just a secret Christian apologist who pretends to be an atheist. Yeah, okay. Here we go.
Claiming atheist of God, there is no God. It's just a little bit of trivia to throw in there.
How dare you claim there is no God while not knowing that there's a Bible nearby? Oh, and Robert Madewell has been a member for 8 months at the Amniote level.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate it. In case you guys don't know, I do have channel memberships. You can join. It starts at, I think, $1.99. You get early access to videos. You get access to the channel emotes. You get access to my Discord server if you request it, because I can't automatically give it to channel members. But there is a member and patron Discord server. So if anyone wants to, I really appreciate it. I think we need 6 more people or so, and we get another emoji. So if you want to see the catalog of member emojis grow, that's a way you could do it. Yeah, so Robert Mabel says, I touched a Bible once, I felt dirty. I mean, was it a dirty Bible? Here we go.
Anyway, Madeline Murray O'Hare, by 1962 or 3, had prayer taken out of our schools. In 1963, we saw incredible problems come into the moral system of the world. We'll talk about that. We'll be back from a 5-minute break. What happened in 1963?
We're not taking a 5-minute break.
Let's take up where we left off here before the break about what's happened since
You had a
1963.
whole break to put a tie on, Kent. Come on.
Brian Stevens just joined at the tetrapod level. Thank you so much, Brian Stevens. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you finding out what happened to with all those phone numbers. And Brian Stevens, for his first chat as an channel member with that green name and the little tetrapod guy, says Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Look, okay, here's my thing. During a holiday, I want you to wish me a happy whatever your holiday is.
Me too.
The past couple months, I've been wished multiple times a happy Hanukkah and a happy Diwali, and I appreciate both of them, even though I don't celebrate either.
That's what I want to. I want you to wish me whatever you celebrate. Wish me the happy that day, and I'll do the same.
I'll also point out that it's not
So,
Christmas yet.
yeah.
Christmas starts on December 25th, and that's the first day of Christmas. And then it goes for 12 more days. And then the Russians start celebrating Christmas after the 12 days end. So, in case you guys haven't been here for a year or so, spoiler alerts, I'm going to be saying Merry Christmas well into January. So, that's something for you to look forward to.
And he'll do that every year forever.
I've been doing it for years already.
Until the heat death of the universe, maybe not that long.
If I live that long, then sure. Here we go.
Yeah. These are what we're going to cover now is what's called a moral indicator. How do you tell if a country's having trouble? Well, you can look at your own personal bank account and see some indicators that, wow, I'm in trouble. The balance keeps dropping every month. Or,
hey guys, join the channel as a member because Kent just said something relevant. Anyway, here we go.
Or, my outgo exceeds my income. Or, there are indicators that you're going to have trouble if you don't do something to stop it. There are some moral indicators you can look at to say, wow, what's happening? We're going to have some problems here if we don't put a stop to this. Since 1963, the percentage of teenage girls having sex before marriage has grown incredibly.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready for the New World Order by Carl Sanders, page 13? Yeah, I couldn't read that Exodus.
I think it was just percentage or something.
See, they're following Hollywood's lie that, oh, you're missing out on all the fun. I had this pressure when I was a kid. All my buddies in school are talking about all the girls they've been with, and they're all bragging in the locker room. Well, I said, look, I'm just going to save myself from marriage. And it's interesting. I went for my 30th high school reunion a couple of years ago, and all the guys that were bragging about all the women they had are now divorced 3 times and paying alimony all over the country.
Man, imagine having 3 ex-wives. That would be so crazy. I'm glad that Kent Hovind doesn't have 3 ex-wives. And yeah, I'm taking a big old drink for that one because that just pegged my irony meter high.
Don't you think?
My goodness. Imagine being Kent Hovind and saying, oh, only those horrible heathens have 3 ex-wives. I only have the 1 wife. Well, everybody, welcome to 2021, where Kent Hovind is currently on wife number 4.
And I've been married 32 wonderful years and got a gorgeous wife, and my kids live right next to me, and all my grandkids come visit Grandpa all the time, and I'll take what I've got over what they've got any
you
day.
would.
And now, fast forward a decade and a half or so, and Kent Hovind literally on his live stream begs his kids to bring his grandkids over for a visit because he hasn't seen them in like 5 years. Yeah. And you know what? Yeah, I'm taking pleasure in Kent Hovind's suffering because I think I said it earlier. Kent Hovind is a piece of shit. He deserves to be ostracized from his family. This man is an abusive, horrible man who made life, according to his own story and according to what I've heard about his life just recently from people who knew him intimately, he makes life for his family a living hell. This is a terrible, terrible human being who deserves to not at all have his family associate with him.
I just find it so sad for his family.
Oh, yeah.
For everyone he's hurt, like, directly, you know, I feel bad for those people.
Yeah. I mean, he neglects his son, Kent Andrew. He's on record talking about, like, beating the crap out of Eric Hovind at the dentist office. I mean, he ended up getting his wife sent to jail, basically, because, sure, she shouldn't have done the things that she did that led to her prison sentence, but let's be honest, she did them because she was fully indoctrinated to this, you know, the husband is the head of the household, and what he says goes, and whatnot, and, like, he led her into these crimes. That's why she divorced him. And, yeah. Anyway, here we go. We're almost done.
Just don't listen to Hollywood. They don't have a clue.
That's generally true, so we'll actually take a drink for that.
I feel like Hollywood's pretty good at making movies, though. Well, I don't know.
Well, they occasionally make pretty good movies.
They're either good at making good movies or making money from bad movies.
Yes.
They're
But
good
what
at those two
happened,
things.
once you start teaching kids in the early 60s, hey, we're just an animal, we evolved from an animal, well, what do you expect? Now, there may be several other things involved in this great rise, okay? I'm not saying evolution is the only cause of it, but the teaching of evolution certainly is a major cause of what we're about to show you.
I'm going to need a citation for that. But anyway, we are going to actually get out of here before Kent Hovind shows us his reasons for thinking that evolution is the major cause for all these downtrends in American morality or whatever. So, let's get first. Bent, do you have anything you want to plug?
I have nothing to plug other than the Dapper Dino channel. If you don't know where it is, you can search for it on YouTube.
Okay. The Venerable Bead says, Dapper Dinosaur rant about the sauropod feet in Jurassic World Dominion short. Okay. I'm going to try to make it quick. Look, we have numerous sauropod fossils and trackways. We know what their feet were like. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and just general pop depictions of sauropods in general insist on giving them elephant feet, but we know that isn't the case, right? Their front feet were shaped sort of like a half circle or like a horseshoe, right? So there's like no center flesh pad, and the weight-bearing bit is the metacarpals. Yeah, metacarpals, not metatarsals, right? And generally speaking, most sauropods, especially the advanced ones from like the later Jurassic or even into the Cretaceous, they didn't even have phalanges on the forelimbs except on the thumb, and it was just to support a spike. And we don't know what the spike did, but they had it. And then on the back legs, they generally did have phalanges, and toes 1, 2, and 3 were clawed, but the claws were curved out like laterally, and they were actually pretty long and claw-shaped, not hoof-shaped. And for some reason, even in the scene in Jurassic World Dominion that's supposed to be taking place before the extinction of the dinosaurs, they have these elephant-footed sauropods, and not only that, but they also have them living in the same environment with Giganotosaurus and T-Rex and Oviraptor. Here's a hint. None of those animals depicted ever met each other. They all lived in different times in different places. The Cretaceous was not just a hodgepodge of all dinosaurs. So, yes, there you go. There's my rant, mini rant about Jurassic World Dominion sauropod feet. Okay, now I'm going to plug stuff coming up on the channel. So Thursday is the final episode of Helping Cindy Lincoln, at least so far. Once it's out, I'll talk to Cindy, get her thoughts, engage with any rebuttals that she has made or wants to make or whatever. And there may be additional episodes about Cindy Lincoln. I don't know. So that's Thursday. Saturday, I have no idea. I am talking to someone who could come on for a Leading on Earth Creationism. I also have some videos that I might like to do like a live react with some geology friends of mine. I don't know. But then the next Tuesday after that should be Eric with Erica. So if you're a fan of Gutsig Gibbon, which first, why wouldn't you be? And second, yeah, she'll probably be here. And then, yeah, that's as far ahead as I want to look. I did just today finish a series about Andrew Snelling, which is going to be coming out for early access for patrons and members in the next few days. So if you're interested in that, that's the way to do it. Because, yeah, that'll all be published very soon. I've been delaying it because, again, AIG are dicks, and they like to copyright claim those videos. And I don't like to share them until all that gets resolved. Because push comes to shove, I might have to edit them or sue AIG, which I would rather not have to do. But anyway, that's basically it for channel announcements for me. Ben said he didn't have anything. So again, do check out the GoFundMe linked in the description for Cindy. If you want to give a little bit of money to help sue Kent Hovind. Because,
I'll plug Science Side Up again. Go sub
yes.
the Science Side Up again.
Yes.
Whether
Maddie,
she's here or not.
which reminds me,
matter.
actually,
If you haven't subbed, you should.
Monday, we should be playing Dungeons & Dragons on Cheshire Vic's channel with Science Side Up as our DM. And I may end up producing that stream. So if you want to watch me play Dungeons & Dragons, be a dwarf with a Scottish accent, that's how you do it. All right, we're out of here. Goodbye, guys. I'm just going to end this with an end credits. Thank you, my patrons and channel members. And thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you on Thursday. I just want to take a moment to thank my channel members and my patrons on Patreon. They really help keep the lights on here. And I want to thank those pledging $20 or above, especially Bob Knob, Bent Hovind, Ian Chen, Chris Love, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, and Patrick Dennis. Without the support of those whose names you see on screen right now, the channel simply wouldn't exist as it does now, and I certainly wouldn't be able to do 2 to 3 videos a week for over a year and a half now. If you would like to help support and make it so that this channel is something that can keep going, there is a link to join below the video, as well as a link to the Patreon in the channel description. If pledging money isn't right for you, please just hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and share my videos. That really helps my channel grow.